My husband stood up at his sister's baby shower, champagne glass raised, and announced to everyone that I was barren. That my body was broken. That I'd never give him the children he deserved. His parents nodded sympathetically while 50 guests stared at me with pity. I smiled, reached into my purse, and pulled out a manila envelope. "Actually, Dashiell," I said calmly, placing it on the gift table, "why don't you read these test results out loud? Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're a subscriber, because tomorrow, I've saved something extra special for you." The ones dated last week. The ones that say I'm in perfect health. His mother's hand froze halfway to her mouth. His father went rigid. And when Dashiell opened that envelope and saw the second set of documents underneath my fertility results, the ultrasound image with someone else's name on it, the room went so silent you could hear the ice melting in the punch bowl. Let me take you back to where this nightmare actually started, because the baby shower wasn't the beginning. That was just the grand finale. It was a Tuesday morning in March when Dashiell Corvain, my husband of 4 years, delivered his diagnosis over Greek yogurt and granola. We were sitting in our kitchen in our renovated brownstone in Portland's Pearl District, morning light streaming through those expensive floor-to-ceiling windows he'd insisted we needed. The ones that cost us $12,000 because they were architecturally significant, or whatever. "Lennox," he said, not even looking up from his phone. "We need to talk about your infertility." I had a spoonful of oatmeal halfway to my mouth. Just frozen there like some kind of statue. "My what?" "Your infertility." He finally looked at me, and his expression was so calm, so matter-of-fact, like he was telling me we were out of coffee beans. "I had some testing done." Discreetly. "The results came back, and, well, you can't have children. Your reproductive system is essentially non-functional." The oatmeal fell back into my bowl with a wet plop. Here's the thing, though. Here's the part Dashiell didn't know. 3 weeks earlier, I'd been to Dr. Saskia Belmont, the top reproductive endocrinologist in Portland. Not because I thought anything was wrong, but because we'd been trying for 18 months and I wanted to make sure everything was working properly on my end. And Dr. Belmont had given me the most boring news possible. I was completely, perfectly, annoyingly healthy. Hormone levels optimal. Ovarian reserve excellent. Fallopian tubes clear. She'd actually said, and I quote, "Your fertility indicators are in the 97th percentile for your age group. Honestly, you could probably get pregnant from an enthusiastic handshake." So when Dashiell sat there, stirring his overpriced Greek yogurt with locally sourced honey, telling me my body was broken, I knew with absolute certainty that he was lying. The question was, why? "What testing?" I asked carefully, setting down my spoon. "When did you have testing done on me?" "It's complicated medical stuff, Lennox. You wouldn't understand the specifics." He waved his hand dismissively, like my comprehension was the issue here. "The point is, we know now. We can stop wasting time hoping for something that's never going to happen. Stop wasting time." Like the past 4 years of marriage had been some kind of failed business venture. Like trying to build a family with me was throwing good money after bad. I should mention that Dashiell worked in venture capital. Everything in his life was an investment with expected returns. Including, apparently, his wife. I'd like to see these test results. They're at the office. Look, I know this is hard to hear, but we need to be realistic. My family has expectations. The Corvain name needs to continue. If you can't provide that. He trailed off, but the implication hung in the air like smoke. If I couldn't provide children, I was disposable. Your family has expectations. I repeated it slowly. My parents have been very patient, but they're starting to ask questions. Mother mentioned it again last week. She wants grandchildren, Lennox. It's not unreasonable. Verena Corvain. My mother-in-law. A woman who introduced me at parties as Dashiell's current wife, like I was a leased vehicle he might trade in when the contract expired. A woman who'd spent 4 years making subtle comments about my career focus and modern priorities whenever the topic of children came up. And now her son was sitting across from me, having fabricated a medical diagnosis to explain why I hadn't produced the Corvain air she was apparently demanding. I need some air. I stood up so fast my chair scraped against the hardwood. We're not done discussing this. Yes, I said, grabbing my purse where Dr. Belmont's test results waited in a folder marked medical records. We are. I walked out of that kitchen, out of that architecturally significant brownstone, and sat in my car for 20 minutes, hands shaking on the steering wheel. Because here's what I realized in those 20 minutes, Dashiell hadn't just lied about my fertility. He'd created a narrative. A story where I was the defective wife, the broken woman who couldn't fulfill her basic biological purpose. A story that would make me the villain in our marriage's ending, not him. And if he was willing to fabricate something this big, this cruel, this medically specific, there had to be a reason. There had to be something he was hiding. So I did what any woman with a lying husband and a head full of rage would do. I started digging. Looking back, the signs had been there for months. I just hadn't connected them into a pattern yet. It started in January, right after New Year's. Dashiell began waking at 4:45 instead of 5:30, not to work out, but to shower at the gym with its supposedly superior water pressure. Never mind that our $800 rainfall showerhead was the reason we'd chosen this place. Then came the separate blankets. The pillow barrier down the center of our bed. The hand pulled away during movies, the kiss that landed on my forehead instead of my lips, his body angling away when I tried to hug him from behind while he made coffee. At his company's Valentine's Day dinner, I put my hand on his knee under the table, a casual gesture, the kind married couples do without thinking. Dashiell jerked away so violently he knocked over his water glass. Cramp, he said quickly, grabbing his leg. Charlie horse. Sorry. But I'd seen his face in that split second before he recovered. Not surprised. Not pained. Disgusted. Like my touch was contaminating. His phone habits changed too. It was always face down now. Always in his pocket. Always password protected with a code he'd changed from the one I knew. Security upgrade, he explained when I commented on it. We got a memo at work about protecting client information. Right. Because his venture capital clients were going to steal his identity through his phone while he was eating pad thai in our kitchen. The office door lock appeared the first week of February. I came home from my job at the nonprofit where I did grant writing, and there it was, a smart lock with a keypad and an app and probably facial recognition or whatever. Dashiell? I called out, standing in the hallway. What's with the Fort Knox setup? He emerged from the office, pulling the door shut until it clicked locked. New company policy. We're handling some sensitive acquisitions. I need to maintain secure spaces for confidential documents. In our house? It's just a precaution, Lennox. Don't make it weird. Don't make it weird. Like I was the one being unreasonable about my husband installing a lock to keep me out of a room in our own home. But the phone calls were the worst part. They started in February and escalated through March. Dashiell would be mid-conversation at dinner when his phone would buzz. He'd glance at it, and something would shift in his expression. I need to take this. And then he'd go outside. Even when it was 40 degrees and raining, which in Portland was basically always. He'd stand in our tiny front courtyard, pacing back and forth, talking for 20 minutes, 30, sometimes an hour. I watched him once through the kitchen window. It was pouring rain, one of those miserable March downpours that turns Portland into a giant puddle. Dashiell stood under our single pathetic tree, getting absolutely soaked, phone pressed to his ear. He was smiling. Not the professional smile he used for business calls. A real smile. The kind he used to give me back when he actually liked me. When he finally came back inside, dripping water all over our entryway, I asked who it was. Client emergency. He headed straight for the shower. His fourth that day. My sister, Marlo, came to visit the second week of March. She took one look at Dashiell, then at me, then back at Dashiell, and I watched her face do this complicated calculation thing. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel, it means a lot to us. Now back to the story. Later, when he was locked in his office doing confidential work, she cornered me in the kitchen. Okay, what the hell is going on with him? What do you mean? Len, he barely looked at you during dinner. When you asked him to pass the salt, he flinched. Flinched. Like you'd asked him to donate a kidney. We're just going through a stressful phase. Stressful phase? Marlowe leaned against the counter, arms crossed. He's treating you like a roommate he's annoyed with. No, scratch that. He's treating you like a roommate he's planning to evict. She wasn't wrong. The morning Dashiell delivered his fake diagnosis wasn't random. I realized that later, when I could think clearly instead of just feeling like I'd been punched in the stomach. He'd planned it down to the minute. That Tuesday, he'd called in sick to work. Actually called his assistant, Gemma, and told her he had food poisoning. I heard him on the phone, doing this whole performance about a bad oyster at some restaurant we hadn't even been to. Then he made us both coffee. Not just his usual single cup grabbed on the way out the door, but 2 carefully prepared cups. He remembered I took oat milk and 1 sugar, even though he'd been forgetting my coffee preferences for weeks. He adjusted the blinds in the kitchen so the morning light hit the table just right. Not too bright, not too dim. Like he was setting up for a photo shoot. Sit. He pulled out my chair. The first time he'd done anything remotely gentlemanly in 2 months. I should have known right then that something was coming. Dashiell only performed chivalry when he wanted something or was about to do something terrible. Usually both. He sat across from me with this folder. Brown, unmarked, professionally organized. The kind of folder lawyers use when they're about to ruin your life with paperwork. Lennox, we need to have a serious conversation about our future. He wasn't looking at me. Not really. His eyes were focused on a spot just past my left shoulder, like actors do in bad community theater when they can't handle direct eye contact with their scene partners. I've been doing a lot of research, he continued, opening the folder with ceremonial precision. About our situation. About why we haven't been able to conceive. My coffee cup was warm in my hands, but I felt cold. That specific kind of cold that starts in your chest and spreads outward when you know something horrible is about to happen. There are medical explanations for these things, Dashiell said, sliding papers across the table. They stopped exactly halfway between us, like he'd measured the distance. Scientific reasons why some couples can't have children. The papers looked official. Lab letterhead, charts with numbers, highlighted sections that I couldn't quite read from my angle. But they were just slightly too far away to examine properly, just close enough to see that they existed. The tests are definitive. His voice had taken on this tone I'd never heard before. Clinical. Detached. Like he was presenting quarterly earnings to investors instead of telling his wife her body was broken. Your reproductive system has significant abnormalities. The doctors call it primary ovarian insufficiency. It's irreversible. Primary ovarian insufficiency. He'd done his homework, picked a real condition with a scary medical name. Not something obvious like, you're sterile, but something that sounded technical enough to be believable. Which doctors? The words came out before I could stop them. Specialists. The ones I consulted privately. He shuffled the papers, never quite pushing them close enough for me to actually read. I didn't want to worry you until I had concrete answers. How thoughtful. How considerate. Secretly having my fertility tested, or pretending to, without my knowledge or consent. I know this is difficult to process, Dashiell continued, and I could tell he'd practiced this part. The sympathetic pause, the carefully modulated tone. But we need to face reality. You physically cannot carry a child, Lennox. Your body won't support a pregnancy. Won't support a pregnancy. Like I was a building with faulty infrastructure instead of a human being. I need to have children. He leaned forward with practiced sincerity. I need to build something that lasts beyond me. A legacy. You understand that, don't you? A legacy. The Corvain family legacy that his mother brought up at every holiday dinner. The unbroken line of Corvain men passing down wealth and property and pretension for 5 generations. And I was the defective link threatening to break that chain. We have options, Dashiell said, his voice warming like he was about to offer me a consolation prize. Surrogacy, adoption, maybe even. That's when my grandmother's teacup slipped from my hand. Not the coffee cup. I'd set that down already. No, this was the delicate porcelain teacup I'd filled with water, the one my grandmother Celestine had given me at my wedding. Hand-painted forget-me-nots around the rim, gold leaf on the handle. It had survived 93 years, 2 world wars, and my grandmother's entire marriage. It didn't survive Dashiell's performance. The cup hit our marble floor and exploded into what looked like 100 pieces, shards skittering across the kitchen like shrapnel. Water spread out in a perfect circle, reaching toward Dashiell's expensive Italian leather shoes. I knelt immediately, my hands shaking as I tried to gather the pieces. The forget-me-nots were still visible on some of the larger fragments. Leave it, Dashiell said, already standing. I'll get paper towels. But I didn't leave it. I collected every single shard, cradling them in my palm like something precious. Which they were. The last physical thing from my grandmother, now destroyed, just like Dashiell was trying to destroy me. He returned with paper towels, dropping them near the puddle but not close enough to crouch beside me. It's just a cup, Lennox. It was my grandmother's. We'll buy you another one. And there it was. The casual dismissal of something irreplaceable. The assumption that everything broken could be replaced with money or convenience or whatever solution was easiest for him. Some things, once shattered, stay shattered. I stood up, still holding the ceramic pieces, my jeans wet from kneeling in the water. I need air. We haven't finished. Yes. We have. I drove to a coffee shop in the Hawthorne district and sat in my car for maybe 20 minutes, holding a paper bag with my grandmother's broken teacup pieces inside, trying to figure out what the hell to do next. My phone buzzed. Dashiell, where are you? We need to discuss next steps. I deleted the message without responding. Here's what I knew, Dashiell was lying about my fertility. That was fact, not suspicion. I had Dr. Belmont's test results showing perfect reproductive health. But why would he fabricate something this elaborate? This cruel? People don't create fake medical diagnoses for fun. They do it because they need an exit strategy. They need a villain in their story that isn't them. Which meant Dashiell wanted out of our marriage, but he needed me to be the reason why. His car was gone when I got home. The house was empty, silent except for the heating system clicking on. And his office door was open. Not just unlocked. Completely, fully open. Like he'd been in such a rush to escape after his morning performance that he'd forgotten his precious security protocols entirely. I stood in the doorway for a full minute, just staring. The smart lock was still engaged, blinking green, but the door itself was ajar about 6 inches. Inside, his office smelled like his cologne mixed with something floral and sweet that definitely wasn't mine. My perfume was bergamot and cedar. This was roses and vanilla, the kind of scent that announces itself when someone walks into a room. His desk was messier than I'd ever seen it. Papers scattered across the surface, file folders stacked haphazardly, his laptop sitting open with the screen dark but not closed. I started with the filing cabinet. The first folder was labeled Tax Documents 2024. Inside were W-2s, receipts, the usual financial paperwork. But underneath, tucked between a utility bill and a property tax statement, was a credit card statement for an account I didn't recognize. The charges told a story that made my stomach drop. Blush Beauty Boutique, $347.82, February 14th, size 4 dress. I wore size 8. The same boutique, March 3rd, $219.47. Another size 4. Restaurants I'd never been to. Stella's on division, for separate charges over 2 months, always 2 entrees, always wine pairings. Dashiell had told me Stella's was overpriced and pretentious when I'd suggested it for our anniversary. Le Pigeon, 3 times in March alone. The place with the 6-month waiting list. Jewelry store, March 18th, $892. Sapphire pendant necklace. I pulled out my phone and started photographing everything. Every statement, every receipt, every line item. His laptop was still warm when I touched the trackpad. The screen lit up, no password required because he was still logged in. His email was open. Right there at the top of his inbox, flagged in red, was a message from someone named Talia Strand. I knew Talia. Sort of. She worked at Dashiell's firm, started maybe 8 months ago. Pretty, 26, always wore expensive blazers. We'd met once at a company mixer. The email was from this morning, sent an hour after Dashiell had left our house. Subject line, can't stop thinking about you. I clicked. Dash, this morning must have been so hard. I know telling her the truth about her infertility was the compassionate thing to do, but I also know it hurt you to deliver that news. You're such a good man for trying to spare her feelings for so long. I keep thinking about last night. The way you held me, the way you said my name. I've never felt this way before. Like I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. Only 12 more weeks until the baby comes. Our baby. I know the timing is complicated, but this child is proof that we were meant to be together. After the divorce is final, we can finally stop hiding. We can be the family we're supposed to be. I love you. I love our baby. I can't wait for our life to begin. Forever yours, T. The email was dated March 19th. Today. 12 more weeks until the baby comes. I did the math quickly. 12 weeks from now was mid-June. Which meant she was about 6 months pregnant. Which meant conception happened in late December. Right when Dashiell had started sleeping with a pillow barrier between us. I scrolled down. There were more emails. Dozens of them, going back to November. November, professional pleasantries about a portfolio presentation. December, can't stop thinking about lunch yesterday. Your laugh is my favorite sound. January, I hate that we have to be so careful at work. I just want to hold you. February, the test came back positive. We're going to be parents. I'm terrified and thrilled and so happy. I photographed everything. Every email, every declaration of love, every mention of their future together. But I needed more. Something physical. I opened the desk drawers. Bills, pens, business cards. And then, in the bottom drawer, underneath a folder of investment prospectuses, I found it. An ultrasound photo. Grainy, black and white, the classic prenatal imaging. A tiny blob circled in red marker. The header read, Talia Strand, 22 weeks. The date, March 10th. 22 weeks. About 5.5 months. On the back, in handwriting I didn't recognize, Baby Corvain, due June 24th. We can't wait to meet you. Love, Mom and Dad. Baby Corvain. She'd already claimed the baby. Named it after Dashiell's precious family legacy. I photographed the ultrasound from every angle, then carefully placed it back exactly where I'd found it. First stop, FedEx office on Burnside. I uploaded every photo from my phone, organized them chronologically, and printed everything in full color. The employee, a guy maybe 22 with blue hair and gauges, kept glancing at the prints coming out. Credit card statements. Love emails. Ultrasound images. Rough day, he asked when I paid. Getting better by the minute. I bought a black 3-ring binder and sheet protectors. Sat in my car and assembled everything like I was preparing a legal brief. Because essentially, I was. Tab 1, my fertility test results from Dr. Belmont. Tab 2, credit card statements showing Dashiell's secret spending. Tab 3, the emails between Dashiell and Talia. Tab 4, the ultrasound photo. Baby Corvain, due in 3 months. The binder was thick, heavy with evidence. But I couldn't take it home. Dashiell might find it. I drove to Marlowe's apartment in northwest Portland and hid the binder in her coat closet, behind her winter boots and the vacuum cleaner she never used. Then I called Dr. Belmont's office. "Hi, this is Lennox Corvain. I need to schedule another appointment. Full fertility panel, same tests as before." The receptionist sounded confused. "Mrs. Corvain, you just had comprehensive testing 3 weeks ago. Your results were excellent. I need updated documentation. Official records with current dates. It's for legal purposes." Pause. "I understand. We can fit you in tomorrow morning at 9. Dr. Belmont met me in her office the next day, looking elegant and slightly amused. "Lennox. Paige mentioned you need repeat testing for legal purposes. Want to tell me what's going on?" So I told her. Not everything, but enough. That my husband had announced I was infertile, that he had test results proving it, that I needed official documentation showing the truth. Dr. Belmont's expression shifted to something that looked a lot like anger. "Your husband told you that you're infertile. Primary ovarian insufficiency, specifically. Said it was irreversible. And he had you tested without your knowledge?" "He claims he did. I'm guessing he just fabricated the results." She stood, walked to her filing cabinet, and pulled out my folder. Flipped through the pages with increasing intensity. "Lennox, I'm going to be very clear with you. Your fertility is exceptional. Not just normal. Exceptional. Your hormone levels are optimal, your ovarian reserve is excellent. If your husband told you that you can't have children, he's either medically illiterate or deliberately lying. Option 2. I'm going to run every test again. Full panel, updated results, multiple copies with official documentation. And I'm going to write a letter, on practice letterhead, explicitly stating your reproductive health status." The blood draws took 20 minutes. The ultrasound another 15. Dr. Belmont worked with focused intensity, like she was personally offended by Dashiell's lies. Which, as a doctor who'd spent years helping people have children, she probably was. "Results will be ready in 48 hours, she said when we finished. But I can tell you right now, nothing has changed. You're in perfect health. Can you put that in writing?" She smiled, and it wasn't a nice smile. "Already typing the letter. I'll have my nurse notarize it. Multiple copies with official seals. Your husband wants to play doctor? Let's show him what actual medical documentation looks like." 2 days later, I picked up an envelope from Dr. Belmont's office. Inside were 3 complete sets of test results, each one stamped, signed, and notarized. The letter was 2 pages long, dense with medical terminology, and concluded with a paragraph that made me want to frame it. "To whom it may concern, Lennox Corvain presents with exceptional fertility indicators across all measured parameters. Any claim that Ms. Corvain is infertile, whether due to primary ovarian insufficiency or any other condition, is medically baseless and contradicted by extensive clinical evidence. Her reproductive system functions optimally, and she has no barriers to conception. This assessment is made with complete medical certainty. Signed, Dr. Saskia Belmont, MD, FACEG, Reproductive Endocrinology and Infertility." I sat in my car in the medical building parking lot, holding that envelope, and felt something shift in my chest. Not sadness. Not even anger anymore. Just cold, clear determination. If Dashiell wanted a broken wife, I'd give him exactly that. This was late March, 2 weeks after his breakfast performance. The performance started with a trip to Powell's Books. I bought every book I could find about infertility, adoption, and alternative paths to parenthood. Made sure to use our joint credit cards so Dashiell would see the charges. I scattered them around the house like breadcrumbs. One on the coffee table, bookmarked to a chapter about accepting your diagnosis. Another on my nightstand with highlighted passages about grief and loss. A third in the bathroom, open to a page about support groups. Adoption agency brochures appeared in conspicuous places. One tucked into a magazine on the kitchen counter. Another sticking out of my purse, just visible enough that Dashiell would notice. The browser history was my masterpiece. I spent an entire evening researching fertility clinics, IVF options, and egg donor programs. Made sure not to clear the history on our shared laptop. Created bookmarks in a folder labeled Baby Options, with links to adoption agencies and a particularly heartbreaking forum for women dealing with infertility. I even made a spreadsheet comparing costs. Adoption versus surrogacy versus IVF. Color-coded, cross-referenced, the kind of obsessive organization that screamed desperate woman grasping at straws. Dashiell found it 3 days later. I know because he came out of his office with pure satisfaction on his face. I see you've been doing some research. He gestured toward the laptop. Just exploring options, I said quietly, adding a little tremor to my voice. Like you suggested. That's very mature of you, Lennox. Very practical. The support group was almost too much, even for me. Portland fertility warriors met every Wednesday evening at a community center in Southeast. When I called to ask about attending, the coordinator, a woman named Iris, was so kind and welcoming that I felt genuinely terrible about what I was doing. We're a judgment-free space. Whatever you're going through, you're not alone. Except I wasn't going through anything. My fertility was fine. I was just building a paper trail to support my husband's lies while I collected evidence of his affair. The guilt lasted about 30 seconds. Then I remembered, baby Corvain. I showed up to the Wednesday meeting wearing my most vulnerable outfit. Oversized sweater, no makeup, hair in a messy bun. The universal uniform of a woman who's stopped trying. 12 women sat in a circle. All of them carrying real grief, real loss, real struggles that made my fake performance feel obscene. When it was my turn to share, I did what I'd practiced. I'm Lennox. I just found out I can't have children. My voice cracked exactly on children. Not too dramatic, just enough to sound genuine. My husband has been amazing, so supportive, but I can see the disappointment in his eyes. He wants kids so badly, and I can't give him that. The women nodded with understanding, and I hated myself a little bit more. After the meeting, I made sure to get a receipt for the suggested donation and took one of their pamphlets. Physical evidence. When I got home, Dashiell was actually in the living room instead of locked in his office. Where were you? Support group. I left the pamphlet on the entry table where he'd see it. For women with fertility issues. His expression softened into something that might have looked like sympathy if you didn't know it was satisfaction. That's good, Lennox. Really good. You're taking positive steps. Over the next 2 weeks, I perfected the role of devastated but accepting wife. I started conversations about adoption agencies. Asked Dashiell's opinion on open versus closed adoption like his input mattered. Brought home pamphlets from different organizations and spread them across the dining table for him to find. I made sad Google searches on our shared devices. Can infertile women still have fulfilling lives? And how to cope when you can't give your husband children? Dashiell's behavior changed dramatically. He started coming home earlier. Started being almost pleasant during dinner. He even touched my shoulder once, a patronizing pat like you'd give a child who'd finally accepted bedtime. He thought he was winning. Meanwhile, I was documenting everything. Every late-night phone call he still took, now with less secrecy. Every charge on that secret credit card, which he'd gotten sloppy about hiding. Every email to Talia about nursery colors and baby names and their future together. Marlo became my co-conspirator. She'd call when Dashiell was home, her voice loud enough to carry. Lennox, honey, you need to focus on what you can control. I know, Marlo, I'd respond in a trembling voice. I just feel so useless. Like I've failed at the most basic thing a woman should be able to do. I could see Dashiell in the doorway, listening, nodding to himself. Meanwhile, Marlo was texting me, found a divorce attorney. 5 stars. Want me to set up a consultation? The best part was watching Dashiell slowly relax. He started leaving his office door unlocked more often. Started being less careful with his phone. Even left that secret credit card statement on his desk one evening, not bothering to hide it. He was moving his things out in increments. His college diploma disappeared from the wall, supposedly being reframed. His grandfather's watch vanished from the dresser, getting serviced. He was preparing for his exit. Setting up his new life with Talia and baby Corvain. And I was letting him think he'd already won. The invitation came on a Tuesday afternoon in late April. I was at work, reviewing grant proposals, when my phone lit up with a text from Verena Corvain. Lennox, darling. Cressida's baby shower is Sunday at 2 p.m. The estate. You'll be there, of course. Not a question. A command. Cressida was Dashiell's younger sister, 8 months pregnant with her second child. Their family dynamic was something out of a period drama, all expectations and obligations and maintaining the Corvain image. I stared at that text for a solid minute. A baby shower. At the Corvain family estate in West Lynn, their ridiculous mini-mansion where Verena held court like Portland aristocracy. Where Dashiell would be surrounded by his family, his support system, his people. Where I would be the outsider who'd failed to produce the next generation. My phone buzzed again. Dashiell. Mom wants us at Cressida's shower Sunday. I know baby events might be hard for you right now, but we should go. Show family support. Let me know if you need me to make excuses for you. Let me know if you need me to make excuses for you. Translation: I've already told everyone about your infertility. They'll understand if you're too devastated to attend. I could see it playing out. Dashiell showing up alone, shaking his head sadly. She's struggling with the diagnosis. These events are just too painful. Everyone would sympathize. Poor Dashiell, stuck with a barren wife. Poor Dashiell, unable to continue the family legacy. Except I knew his options. Her name was Talia Strand, she was 28 weeks pregnant, and she was carrying the Corvain heir everyone wanted so badly. I texted Verena back, of course I'll be there. Looking forward to it. Then Dashiell, I'll come. I need to start accepting reality and being happy for others. His response was immediate, that's my girl. Very mature. I'm proud of you. I spent the rest of the week in careful preparation. I went back to Dr. Belmont's office and got 2 additional copies of everything. One set went into the binder at Marlowe's. The other went into a manila envelope for Sunday. Then I went shopping. I found a dress at a boutique on Northwest 23rd, Emerald Green, fitted but not tight, elegant in a way that said I have nothing to hide. The saleswoman sensed something. Big event? You could say that. I'm ending something. Friday evening, Dashiell came home earlier than usual. He found me surrounded by my fake infertility research. Hey. You okay about Sunday? I think so. It'll be hard, seeing everyone with their babies, but I need to start accepting this. He sat near me, not touching but close enough to appear supportive. You're being really strong about this, Len. I just want you to be happy. Even if I can't give you what you want. Something flickered in his expression. Guilt? Satisfaction? We'll figure it out. Together. Together. Sure. Him, me, Talia, and baby Corvain. Saturday night, I barely slept. Not from anxiety, but from adrenaline. I kept mentally checking the manila envelope. Dr. Belmont's test results on top. Underneath, printouts of the emails. At the very bottom, the ultrasound photo. Baby Corvain. Everything in order. Everything ready. Sunday morning, I put on the green dress, did my makeup carefully, styled my hair. Except I wasn't sure I was ready. My hands shook as I locked the apartment door. What if this backfired? What if they all sided with Dashiell anyway, evidence or not? Then I thought about 4 years of Verina's condescension. 4 months of Dashiell's systematic cruelty. The ultrasound photo labeled baby Corvain. I got in the car. Dashiell came out, saw me in the dress. You look nice. Thank you. Ready to go? I picked up my purse, felt the weight of the envelope inside. Ready. The drive to West Lynn took 30 minutes. The Corvain property appeared on the left, all manicured lawns and imported trees and wealth that whispered instead of shouted. Cars already lined the circular driveway. The perfect audience. Dashiell parked, came around to open my door. You sure you're okay? I smiled. I've never been more sure of anything in my life. The Corvain estate looked like something out of a magazine. White tent on the back lawn, string lights even though it was 2 in the afternoon, tables draped in pale pink linen with elaborate floral centerpieces. 50, maybe 60 people milled around. Family members, Dashiell's colleagues, Verina's country club friends in their tennis bracelets and designer sundresses. And there, near the gift table, was Cressida. 8 months pregnant, glowing, surrounded by admirers. Verina spotted us immediately. Dashiell, darling. She air-kissed both his cheeks, then turned to me with considerably less enthusiasm. Lennox. How nice that you could make it. Wouldn't miss it. Verina's eyes flickered over my dress, calculating. Well, Cressida will appreciate your support. Even though I'm sure this is difficult for you. She said it loud enough that 3 nearby women turned to look. Difficult for me. Because I was the barren wife. I'm learning to find joy in other people's happiness, I said, which was both true and completely not what she thought I meant. Dashiell's hand landed on my lower back, steering me away. You're doing great. Just get through the next few hours. I spotted the gift table near the tent entrance, already piled with elaborately wrapped boxes. My gift, the handmade blanket, suddenly felt inadequate. But I placed it there anyway, adjusting my purse so the manila envelope shifted. Still there. Still ready. Lennox. Cressida waddled over, genuinely happy. I'm so glad you came. Dashiell said you might not feel up to it. Of course he did. I wouldn't miss celebrating you. How are you doing? Dashiell mentioned you'd been going through something difficult. There it was. He'd told his sister. Which meant he'd told everyone. I'm managing. One day at a time. She squeezed my hand with genuine sympathy. If you need anything, I'm here. The party continued. Finger foods on silver trays, champagne and sparkling cider. Verina held court, surrounded by her social circle, all of them casting occasional glances at me like I was a wounded animal. Dashiell worked the room, shaking hands, laughing at jokes. Every few minutes, he'd glance my way, checking to make sure I wasn't falling apart in public. I nursed a glass of sparkling cider and smiled at people who offered condolences for struggles they thought I was having. Dashiell mentioned you're exploring adoption, one of Verina's friends said, dripping with pity. Such a mature approach to your situation. We're considering all our options. Around 2:30, Verina called everyone to attention. Time for games. We played Guess the Baby Food and Don't Say Baby. Verina won everything, naturally. At 3:15, it was time for presents. Cressida settled into a wicker throne chair decorated with ribbons, surrounded by the mountain of gifts. A designated friend sat nearby with a notebook for thank you card purposes. Designer onesies, organic blankets, a stroller that probably cost more than my first car. Dashiell stood near his mother, probably thinking about the baby shower that would happen in 2 months. Talia's baby shower. I waited. Watched. The manila envelope in my purse felt like it was burning through the leather. Cressida opened my gift, the handmade blanket. Oh, Lennox, this is beautiful. Did you make this? I had it made by a local artist. Each stitch is unique. It's perfect. Thank you. She moved on to the next gift. And the next. The pile dwindling. Verena kept glancing at her watch, probably calculating when to serve cake. But then Dashiell's phone buzzed. He pulled it out, glanced at the screen, and his whole body went rigid. I watched him turn slightly away, his thumb moving across the screen. Texting someone. His jaw was tight. His shoulders tense. Something was wrong. He shoved his phone back and looked directly at me across the lawn. The casual confidence was gone. In its place was something that looked almost like panic. Did he know? Had he figured out what I had planned? But then Verena called for attention. Before we have cake, Dashiell has asked to say a few words about family and the importance of legacy. Oh, this should be good. Dashiell walked to the center of the tent, and I saw him take a breath, squaring his shoulders. Everyone turned to face him, champagne glasses in hand. And that's when I knew. This wasn't random. This was planned. He was about to do something. Dashiell stood in the center of the tent, under string lights that suddenly felt theatrical. Family means everything to the Corvains. Legacy, continuation, passing on our name and values to the next generation. Verena nodded along like he was delivering the Gettysburg Address. Cressida, you and Marcus are doing exactly what our family has always done. Building something that lasts. He paused, pulling something from his jacket pocket. A piece of paper, folded. My stomach dropped. Which is why I need to be honest about something. About my marriage. The entire party went silent. Lennox and I have been struggling. We've been trying to start a family, but we've encountered some significant obstacles. I felt 50 pairs of eyes turned toward me. Medical testing has revealed that Lennox suffers from primary ovarian insufficiency. She's unable to have children. He said it so gently, so carefully. It's been devastating for both of us, but particularly for her. Cressida's hand went to her mouth. Several women made soft sounds of sympathy. Verena's expression was somewhere between pity and vindication. Actually, Dashiell, I said, my voice cutting through the tent, I have something to share too. Every head swiveled. I stood, reaching into my purse. My fingers found the manila envelope. Dashiell went pale. Lennox, this isn't. Isn't what? Appropriate? I walked toward the center, my heels clicking. You just announced my supposed infertility to 60 people at a baby shower. I think we're past appropriate. Verena stood. Lennox, perhaps we should discuss this privately. No. You wanted to know why there are no grandchildren from Dashiell and me? Let's talk about it. Publicly. Right now. I pulled the first set of documents from the envelope. Dr. Belmont's test results, complete with official letterhead and notarization. These are my actual fertility test results. Dated 2 weeks ago. From Dr. Saskia Belmont, one of the top reproductive endocrinologists in Oregon. I held them up so everyone could see the official stamps. Would you like me to read the summary, or should we skip to the part where it says my fertility is in the 97th percentile? That all my reproductive functions are optimal? That I have absolutely no barriers to conception? The silence was deafening. Dashiell tried to speak. Those can't be real? I walked closer. They're real. Unlike the test results you claim to have. The ones you never actually showed me. I handed the papers to Cressida. She took them with shaking hands, her eyes scanning the medical terminology. It's all here, Cressida whispered. These are official results. She's perfectly healthy. Verena snatched the papers, reading frantically. Her face cycled through confusion, anger, and something that might have been horror. Dashiell? Verena's voice was ice. What is this? Mother, I can explain. Oh, let me help. I pulled out the next set of documents. These are credit card statements from an account Dashiell opened without telling me. Notice the charges? Blush Beauty Boutique, size 4 dresses. I'm a size 8. Stella's restaurant, multiple dates, always 2 entrees. I handed those to Dashiell's father, Thornton. Keep reading. There's a jewelry purchase from March. Sapphire pendant necklace. I don't own any sapphires. Thornton's hands tightened on the papers, his jaw clenching. And then there are the emails. I pulled out the printed correspondence. Between Dashiell and Talia Strand. You know Talia, right? Started at Dashiell's firm about 8 months ago? Several people nodded. Let me read you some highlights. I found my favorite. February 12th, from Talia, the test came back positive. We're going to be parents. I'm terrified and thrilled and so happy. February 12th was a month before Dashiell told me I was infertile. Dashiell took a step backward, his face the color of old paper. Stop. Stop talking. Why? You were perfectly happy to discuss my medical history in front of everyone. Let's discuss yours. I pulled out another email. March 3rd, I can't wait until the divorce is final and we can stop hiding. Our baby deserves to have both parents together. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Cressida had both hands on her belly. Our baby. That's interesting phrasing. Makes it sound like Dashiell is having a child with someone who isn't his wife. This is ridiculous. Dashiell's voice cracked. Those emails are taken out of context. Really? I pulled out the ultrasound photo. Then explain this. I held it up. The grainy black and white image, the circled blob, the header with Talia's name. And on the back, visible to everyone close enough, baby Corvain, due June 24th. Verena made a sound I'd never heard before. Something between a gasp and a cry. Dashiell is having a baby. With Talia Strand. She's 28 weeks pregnant. Due in 8 weeks. With the Corvain heir everyone's been waiting for. The tent erupted into chaos. Everyone talking at once, voices overlapping, champagne glasses forgotten as people surged forward to look at the evidence. Thornton grabbed the ultrasound photo, staring at it. Dashiell. Tell me this isn't real. Father, I can explain. Explain what? Verena's voice could have cut glass. Explain how you got another woman pregnant while lying about your wife's fertility? Explain how you were planning to divorce Lennox using a fake medical diagnosis. Dashiell's mouth opened and closed. No smooth words came out. Cressida was still holding my test results. He told me you couldn't have kids. He told all of us. He said you'd been to specialists, that it was definitive. He lied, I said simply. About everything. One of Verena's country club friends stepped forward. So you fabricated a medical condition? To justify having an affair? It wasn't an affair. Dashiell's voice was rising now, defensive. Talia and I, we fell in love. Real love. Not like, he stopped himself, but too late. Not like what? I asked quietly. Not like our marriage? You don't understand the pressure. The family expectations, the legacy requirements. Mother wanted grandchildren. She kept asking when, asking why it was taking so long. Verena went very still. Do not put this on me. It's true. Every holiday, every family dinner. When are you giving me grandchildren, Dashiell? What was I supposed to do? Not create an elaborate lie about your wife's reproductive system. Thornton's voice shook with rage. Not destroy her reputation. Not have an affair with a woman young enough to be, he stopped, did the math. How old is Talia? 26, I supplied helpfully. She's 26. You're 34. She works for you. Do I need to call the firm's HR department right now? Dashiell went even paler. It wasn't like that. She didn't work directly under me. It was consensual. We're in love. You told me you loved me, I said. At our wedding. In front of these same people. Was that a lie too? That was different. That was before I understood what I really needed. What you needed was a woman who'd get pregnant immediately so you could show off to your mother. The words came from Cressida. She was crying now. Is that what this family is? Performance and legacy and lying to get what we want? Cressida, you're upset, Verena started. Of course I'm upset. He destroyed his marriage at my baby shower. He just announced he's having a baby with his mistress at my baby shower. Technically she's not a mistress, I said. Dashiell and I are still married. Which makes Talia the other woman. Marcus, Cressida's husband, had been silent until now. We're leaving. This family is insane. Don't be dramatic, Verena snapped. Your son just admitted to fabricating a medical diagnosis and having an affair, and you're calling us dramatic? Marcus looked at her with disbelief. Cressida's been stressed enough with this pregnancy. We don't need whatever this is. They started walking toward the house. Several other guests decided that was their cue to leave too. Wait, please. Dashiell called after them. Can we just talk about this reasonably? Reasonably? I turned to look at him. You want to talk reasonably? Okay. Let's talk about how you've been systematically moving your belongings out of our house for weeks. Your grandfather's watch, your college diploma, your favorite jacket. You've been preparing to leave while making me believe I was the problem. You are the problem. The words burst out of him, raw and ugly. You and your career and your independence. You never needed me the way a wife should need her husband. Talia needs me. She looks at me like I'm important. The tent went silent again. So that's what this was about. You wanted someone who'd make you feel important. Someone who'd depend on you. Someone who'd worship you. That's not. Someone young enough that she hasn't figured out yet that you're mediocre at best. The words came out colder than I intended, but I didn't take them back. Thornton made a choking sound that might have been a suppressed laugh. Verena had gone very quiet, staring at her son. You used this family's reputation as leverage. You told everyone Lennox was infertile to make yourself look like the victim. You were preparing to divorce her while making it seem like her fault. I was trying to preserve the family image. By destroying it? Verena's voice was lethal now. Do you have any idea what this looks like? You've made us all complicit in your lies. I'm sorry. I made mistakes. But Talia is having my baby. That's real. That matters. Does it? I asked. Because I'm curious about something. You told me I was infertile. You showed me fake test results. But did you ever get tested yourself? His face went blank. What? Your fertility. Did you ever actually have it tested? Or did you just assume everything was fine with you and broken with me? The silence that followed was answer enough. You never got tested, I said, watching realization dawn on faces around the tent. You fabricated my infertility without ever checking your own. That's amazing. Dashiell's face had gone from pale to red. My fertility is fine. Talia's pregnant. That's proof. Is it? Thornton said quietly. Is it your baby, Dashiell? Of course it's mine. You're absolutely certain? No doubts at all? Father, what are you? Because if you fabricated your wife's medical conditions, if you lied about test results, it stands to reason that someone might lie to you the same way. Thornton looked at his son with something like pity. Have you asked for a paternity test? The question hung in the air. I don't need a paternity test, Dashiell said, but his voice wavered. Talia wouldn't, she loves me. Like you loved Lennox? Cressida called from the doorway. Like you promised to be faithful to her? Dashiell pulled out his phone with shaking hands. Started typing frantically. Then stopped. Stared at the screen. What are you doing? Verena demanded. Texting Talia. Asking her to call me. Right now. We all waited. The remaining guests stood frozen. Half-eaten cake on plates. Abandoned champagne glasses. Ribbons and wrapping paper scattered like debris. Dashiell's phone rang. He answered immediately, walking toward the edge of the lawn. But in the quiet, we could all hear his sigh. Talia, I need you to tell me the truth. No, listen to me. Is the baby mine? Don't do this, just answer the question. What do you mean you're not sure? How can you not be sure? Who else were you with? Verena closed her eyes. Thornton set down the ultrasound photo very carefully. Dashiell's voice was getting louder. So you were sleeping with both of us at the same time? I don't care if it just happened, Talia. Brecken from finance? Brecken? How long? Oh my God. He ended the call. Stood there for a moment with his back to all of us, shoulders slumped. When he turned around, he looked like he'd aged 10 years. She's not sure. She was with someone else from the firm. Brecken Aldridge. They'd been involved. On and off. There's a chance the baby could be his. A chance? Verena's voice could have frozen nitrogen. A chance? She said she'd get a paternity test after the baby's born. She said she was 90% sure it was mine. 90%, I repeated. So there's a 10% chance that you destroyed your marriage, fabricated a medical diagnosis, humiliated your wife in front of your entire family, for a baby that isn't even yours. Dashiell said nothing. One of Verena's friends started laughing. Not a happy laugh. A slightly hysterical laugh. Another joined in. This is not funny, Verena snapped. It's a little funny, someone said. He called his wife Barren, and his mistress was sleeping with multiple men. Get out, Verena said. All of you. The party is over. People didn't need to be told twice. There was a mass exodus, guests grabbing purses and gift bags, eager to escape and even more eager to start texting everyone they knew. Within 5 minutes, the lawn was empty except for family. Me, Dashiell, Verena, Thornton, and Cressida and Marcus still lingering by the house. Verena turned to me, and for the first time in 4 years, she looked at me like I was an actual person. Lennox. I apologize. For what specifically? For believing him. For not questioning. For every time I made you feel inadequate. I was wrong about you. Yes, I said. You were. I pulled my car keys from my purse, leaving the manila envelope and its remaining contents on the gift table. Where are you going? Dashiell asked, his voice small. Home. To pack your belongings. You have until tomorrow evening to arrange for someone to collect them. After that, they're going to Goodwill. You can't just kick me out. The house is in my name. My parents gave us the down payment, remember? You insisted we put it only in my name for tax purposes. So yes, I absolutely can kick you out. His mouth opened. Closed. My lawyer will contact you about the divorce. Given what just happened in front of 30 witnesses, I don't anticipate this being a long process. Lennox, please. Can we just talk about this privately? I looked at him. Really looked at him. This man I'd married, who I'd thought I'd build a life with. This stranger who'd tried to destroy me to cover his own lies. No. We're done talking. I walked to my car, my green dress swishing around my legs, my head held high. Behind me, I heard Verena's voice, Dashiell Corvain, you are a disappointment and a fool. I didn't disagree. Within 5 minutes, the lawn was empty except for family. Me, Dashiell, Verena, Thornton, and Cressida and Marcus still lingering by the house. Verena turned to me, and for the first time in 4 years, she looked at me like I was an actual person instead of an inconvenient accessory to her son. Lennox. I apologize. For what specifically? For believing him. For not questioning. For every time I made you feel inadequate. She straightened her shoulders. I was wrong about you. Yes, I said. You were. I pulled my car keys from my purse, leaving the manila envelope and its remaining contents on the gift table. Let them look at it all. Let them see exactly what Dashiell had done. Where are you going? Dashiell asked, his voice small. Home. To pack your belongings. You have until tomorrow evening to arrange for someone to collect them. After that, they're going to Goodwill. You can't just kick me out. The house is in my name, I said. My parents gave us the down payment, remember? You insisted we put it only in my name for tax purposes. So yes, I absolutely can kick you out. His mouth opened. Closed. My lawyer will contact you about the divorce. Given what just happened in front of 30 witnesses, I don't anticipate this being a long process. Lennox, please. Can we just talk about this privately? I looked at him. Really looked at him. This man I'd married, who I'd thought I'd build a life with. This stranger who'd tried to destroy me to cover his own lies. No, I said simply. We're done talking. I walked to my car, my green dress swishing around my legs, my head held high. Behind me, I heard Verina's voice, Dashiell Corvain, you are a disappointment and a fool. I didn't disagree. The drive back to Portland felt different. Lighter somehow. I rolled down the windows even though it was cold, letting the wind whip through the car, carrying away 4 years of pretending and performing and trying to be enough for people who would never see me as anything but inadequate. My phone buzzed at a red light. Marlo. How did it go? I smiled and called her instead of texting. Better than I could have imagined, I said when she answered breathlessly. Tell me everything. Dashiell tried to announce our divorce at the baby shower. Blamed my supposed infertility in front of everyone. So I showed them my real test results. Then the credit card statements. Then the emails with Talia. Then the ultrasound photo. Marlo made a sound between a gasp and a laugh. You didn't. I did. And then Dashiell called Talia right there at the party to ask if the baby was his. Turns out she's been sleeping with someone named Brecken from his office too. She's not sure whose baby it is. What? 90% sure it's Dashiell's, she said. Which means there's a 10% chance he destroyed our marriage for a baby that isn't even his. Marlo's laugh was so loud I had to pull the phone away from my ear. Oh my God. Oh my God. That's not just karma, Len. That's karma doing a victory lap. His parents were there. His sister. All of his mother's country club friends. Everyone saw everything. How do you feel? I thought about it as I merged onto the highway, the city lights of Portland starting to appear in the distance. Free. I feel completely free. You should. You just destroyed him with nothing but the truth. The truth destroyed him. I just showed up with receipts. When I got home, the apartment felt different too. Bigger somehow. Like it had been holding its breath for months and could finally exhale. I walked through each room, seeing it with new eyes. The living room where Dashiell had delivered his fake diagnosis. The kitchen where my grandmother's teacup had shattered. The hallway with his office door that no longer held any secrets because I'd found them all. This was my space now. Truly mine. I changed out of the green dress, carefully hanging it in the closet. I'd probably never wear it again, but I wanted to keep it. A reminder of the day I stopped being a victim and became something else entirely. My phone buzzed again. This time an unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity won. Mrs. Corvain? This is Patricia Lim. I'm a family law attorney. Verina Corvain just called me with your contact information. She said you might need representation in a divorce proceeding. I sat down on my couch, processing this. Verina had called a lawyer for me. Not for her son. For me. She mentioned there were some unusual circumstances, Patricia continued. Fabricated medical diagnoses, infidelity, public confrontation. I'd like to hear your side of things. When can we meet? Tomorrow morning, if you're available. 9 o'clock? I'll be there. After I hung up, I sat in the quiet of my apartment for a long time. The silence wasn't lonely anymore. It was peaceful. Full of possibility instead of dread. My phone buzzed one more time. A text from a number I didn't recognize, but I knew who it was. Dashiell, I know you're angry. I know I hurt you. But can we please talk about this like adults? There has to be a way to work this out. I stared at the message for a moment, then blocked the number without responding. There was nothing to work out. Nothing to discuss. Nothing to salvage. He'd made his choices. I'd made mine. And for the first time in 4 years, I'd chosen myself. The divorce took 4 months. Filed in early May, right after the baby shower. By September, it was done. Record time, according to Patricia Lim, who turned out to be exactly the kind of lawyer I needed. Sharp, efficient, and utterly unsympathetic to Dashiell's attempts to negotiate. He fabricated a medical diagnosis, had an affair with a subordinate, and the mistress's baby might not even be his? She'd actually laughed when I showed her the evidence binder. Lennox, this is the easiest case I've had in 20 years. Dashiell didn't contest anything. Didn't fight for the house, the savings, the furniture. He signed everything Patricia put in front of him with the defeated energy of someone who knew they'd lost before the game even started. I heard through Marlowe, who heard through a friend who worked at Brennan and Associates, that Dashiell had been asked to take a leave of absence 2 days after the baby shower. The affair with Talia had violated company policy about relationships with direct reports. Apparently, despite his claims otherwise, she did report directly to him on several projects. The firm's HR investigation took 2 weeks. Dashiell was given the option to resign or be terminated. He resigned. Talia was also let go. Something about creating a hostile work environment and professional misconduct. The firm didn't want the liability of keeping either of them. So there they were. Both unemployed, both disgraced, both suddenly dealing with the reality that their grand romance had been built on lies and convenience rather than actual love. Verena called me twice after the baby shower. The first time was a week later, to apologize again. More thoroughly this time, with actual acknowledgement of specific ways she'd treated me poorly over 4 years. The comments about my career. The current wife introductions. The constant pressure about grandchildren. I enabled him, she said, her voice tight. I made him believe that legacy was more important than character. That producing an heir mattered more than being a decent human being. I'm ashamed. I didn't tell her it was okay, because it wasn't. But I appreciated the honesty. Thank you for saying that, I said instead. The second call came 3 months later, in late July. The baby was born 2 weeks ago, she said without preamble. A boy. Talia named him something ridiculous with too many syllables. Congratulations? Don't. The paternity test came back yesterday. She paused, and I could hear her taking a breath. It's not Dashiell's. The baby is Brecken Aldridge's son. Talia admitted she'd known for months there was a possibility, but she'd hoped the test would prove Dashiell was the father. I sat down on my couch, the one I'd reupholstered after Dashiell moved out, in a fabric he would have hated. How's he taking it? He's devastated. He'd convinced himself he was going to be a father. That he'd have his legacy, his heir, his proof that destroying his marriage had been worth it. Her voice cracked slightly. Now he has nothing. No wife, no job, no baby, no dignity. Nothing. I'm not going to say I'm sorry. I wouldn't want you to. He deserves everything that's happened to him. Another pause. I'm calling because you should know, in case he tries to contact you. He's been talking about apologizing, about explaining, about somehow making amends. He won't reach me. I blocked his number. Good. Keep it that way. Then, softer, Lennox, for what it's worth, you were always too good for this family. I see that now. She hung up before I could respond. Marlowe came over that night with wine and Thai food, and we sat on my couch processing the complete implosion of Dashiell's carefully constructed lies. So let me make sure I have this right, she said, pouring her second glass of wine. He called you Barren. He fabricated medical test results. He had an affair with his 26-year-old coworker. He got her pregnant. He destroyed his marriage at a public baby shower. He lost his job. And the baby wasn't even his. That's the summary, yes. That's not karma. That's karma with a personal vendetta, a detailed plan, and a PowerPoint presentation. She raised her glass. To the universe having impeccable timing and a sense of humor. We clinked glasses. Have you heard anything else? She asked. Just rumors. He's apparently moving to Seattle. Trying to start over. His parents are barely speaking to him. Cressida blocked him on everything after he tried to blame her for ruining his announcement at her own baby shower. Marlowe choked on her wine. He blamed Cressida. Apparently he told her that if she hadn't made such a big deal out of my evidence, he could have controlled the narrative. Controlled the narrative. The man is delusional. Was delusional. Now he's just unemployed and alone. About a month after the divorce was finalized, I got a call from an unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something, curiosity, closure, I don't know, made me pick up. Lennox. Dashiell's voice was barely recognizable. Hollow. Exhausted. I know I'm probably the last person you want to hear from. You're right about that. I just wanted to say I'm sorry. Really, truly sorry. Not because my life fell apart, but because of what I did to you. The lying. The cruelty. The accusations. You didn't deserve any of it. I looked out my apartment window at the Portland skyline, at the city where I'd built a new life without him. No. I didn't. I destroyed everything good in my life because I was too stupid to see what I had. His voice cracked. You were right about all of it. I was mediocre. I did want someone who'd worship me instead of challenge me. And I lost everything trying to feel important. Dashiell, why are you calling me? Because you're the only person who has a right to hear this apology. I'm moving to Seattle next week. Starting over, or trying to. My parents are barely speaking to me. Cressida won't return my calls. The firm blacklisted me in the venture capital industry. Apparently word travels fast about HR violations and fabricated medical diagnoses. And Talia? Won't talk to me unless it's through lawyers. Brecken, the actual father, is suing her for fraud because she initially listed me on the birth certificate even though she knew there was a chance the baby wasn't mine. I'm somehow still involved in the legal mess even though the paternity test proved I'm not the father. He laughed, bitter and broken. I tried to create a legacy and ended up with nothing but legal bills and shame. I don't know what you want me to say. I don't want you to say anything. I just needed you to know that you won. Completely, totally, absolutely. And you deserve to win. The line went dead. I sat there for a long moment, phone in my hand, processing the conversation. I should have felt triumphant. Vindicated. Satisfied that karma had done its work so thoroughly. But mostly I just felt free. Free from Dashiell's lies and manipulation. Free from Verina's expectations and conditional approval. Free from trying to fit myself into a family that had never really wanted me. Free from a marriage that had been performance instead of partnership. Dashiell had tried to destroy me with a fabricated diagnosis, tried to make me the villain in his story, tried to make my body the problem so his choices wouldn't be questioned. And instead, he'd destroyed himself with real consequences. That wasn't my revenge. I hadn't orchestrated his downfall or plotted his destruction. I just told the truth. And the truth had done what truth always does when you try to bury it under lies. It dug itself out. And when it emerged, it didn't care who got buried in the process. 6 months after the baby shower, I realized I hadn't thought about Dashiell in almost a week. Not in an angry way, not in a vindictive way, not at all. He'd simply stopped taking up space in my head. The apartment was completely mine now. I'd repainted the walls from Verena-approved beige to a deep teal I actually loved. I'd replaced all the furniture we'd bought together with pieces I'd chosen for myself. I'd turned his locked office into a reading room with floor-to-ceiling bookshelves and a window seat where I'd sit on Sunday mornings with coffee and actual peace. The smart lock was gone. No more doors keeping secrets. Work had gotten significantly better too. The nonprofit promoted me to Director of Development after I secured a 6-figure grant from a foundation I'd been courting for 2 years. Turns out I was pretty good at my job when I wasn't spending all my emotional energy managing a dying marriage and a husband's lies. Marlo had moved into an apartment 2 blocks away from mine. We had standing Thursday night dinners where we'd cook elaborate meals, drink too much wine, and laugh about everything, including my spectacular disaster of a marriage. Remember when Verena tried to convince you that beige was the only sophisticated color? Marlo said one evening, gesturing at my teal walls with her wine glass. Remember when she introduced me as Dashiell's current wife at that charity gala, like I was a leased vehicle? God, she really was the worst. Is the worst? What tense do we use for former monsters-in-law? Past tense, I said firmly. Definitely past tense. Though Verena had surprised me. 3 months after the divorce, she'd sent a formal letter on her personal stationery, thick, expensive paper with her monogram, acknowledging specific ways she'd failed me and expressing what seemed like genuine remorse. I didn't respond. Some apologies you accept by simply not holding the grudge anymore, not by pretending you want a relationship. On a cold Saturday in December, almost 8 months after the baby shower, I was cleaning out my closet and found a small box shoved in the back behind my winter boots. The box with my grandmother's broken teacup. I'd saved every piece from that morning when Dashiell had delivered his fake diagnosis, when the cup had slipped from my numb fingers and shattered across our kitchen floor. I opened the box carefully. The fragments were still there, wrapped in tissue paper. The forget-me-not flowers still visible on the larger pieces. The delicate gold leaf handle separated from the body. The rim cracked but still gleaming in places. For a moment, just a brief, fleeting moment, I considered trying to glue it back together. There were special adhesives for porcelain, techniques for restoration. I could probably make it look almost whole again. Then I realized, some things aren't meant to be fixed. Some things break, and that breaking isn't an ending. It's a beginning. I took the box to my reading room, to a shelf I'd designated for objects that mattered. Set it there exactly as it was, broken, scattered, unfixed. A reminder that destruction can be honest. That falling apart can be the most truthful thing you do. That cracks aren't always flaws, sometimes they're just proof you survived something that tried to shatter you. My phone buzzed. A text from a guy named Felix I'd met 3 weeks ago at a bookstore. We'd both reached for the same novel, ended up arguing about whether it was worth reading, and somehow turned that argument into coffee, then dinner, then a second date. Still on for tonight? My place or yours? I smiled and texted back, yours. But fair warning, I'm going to judge your bookshelves. That's what I'm counting on. I set down my phone and looked around my teal-walled apartment with its unlocked doors, its honest furniture, its complete lack of secrets. This was what victory looked like. Not Dashiell's destroyed life, though I couldn't deny there was some satisfaction in how thoroughly his lies had collapsed on him. Not revenge or vindication or dramatic public confrontations, though the baby shower had definitely been one for the books. No, victory was simpler than that. Victory was standing in my own apartment on a Saturday afternoon, making my own choices, living my own truth. Victory was a life rebuilt from better materials than lies. Victory was realizing that when someone calls you barren, broken, defective, when someone tries to make your body the villain in their story, the problem was never you. The problem was their inability to see what was whole. And now they'd never get the chance. I closed the box with my grandmother's teacup and went to get ready for my date. The past was exactly where it belonged, behind me, broken, and no longer taking up any space in my present. The future was mine to build. No lies. No performance. No locked doors. Just truth, teal walls, and the quiet satisfaction of knowing that sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's just living well. It's just being free. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.